It's just, for me, it's just great to see so many people here today to celebrate really where we've come from in the last 10 years to where we are today. And I think it's very fitting that it's in Liverpool for a number of reasons. One is Liverpool is actually very famous worldwide for orthopedics, as I said last night. Sir Robert Jones, who played a huge role in the management of casualties in World War One, actually trained here, first was appointed here, and then went down to Oswald Street and founded the Robert Jones Hospital. And then, of course, the individual, Noel Chavasse, who I'll just say a few words about, if I may. So this is the scope of the talk, and really it's where we've come from to where we're going and where we are now. And I think it's just testament to everybody in this room exactly what we've done as a group. And I'm very proud of the whole business, my team, and actually of what you've all achieved with the support of, I couldn't have done it without Kate. And we'll say that a bit more about that in a minute. So why did I call it the Chavasse Report? So I knew about Noel Chavasse as a young child, actually, because I loved history. And I knew about him as a double VC winner. And for my 50th birthday, my wife took me on a battlefield tour and she said, well, where do you want to go? And I said, I want to go to two places. One is where a local farmer who I knew very well, and he died when he was 92. And I called him Fred. And he went over the top with the VCHA regiment on the first day of the Somme and survived World War One. I wanted to see where he went over the top. And when they came back, they went and dug Bedford Trench at the back. And I wanted to go to Noel Chavasse's grave. And he's in a little cemetery called Branderhock. And he's the only gravestone on the Western Front, as I'm sure many of you know, that has the double VC engraved in it. In fact, the only medal they engrave is the VC. And we went there on a November day. It was raining, it was miserable, it was foggy, the weather was horrible. But when we got to his gravestone, the number of fresh flowers at his gravestone were really quite remarkable. And that left a real impression on me that this man who had gave his all as a medic had actually been remembered and was remembered by all. And so when I came to think and write about what we could do with veterans, it seemed very natural to me that we'd call it the Chavasse Report. Now, if you haven't read the citations of his two VCs, you should, because he epitomizes what you do for patients and your comrades in the most atrocious of conditions. And what he did was astonishing. And with that, I'm going to ask Guy Benson, please, to read out the two citations of his two VCs. And following that, I'm just going to ask Johnson Bahari, and it's a real privilege to have Johnson here today, who everybody knows is a VC winner. He's going to say a few words after that. So Guy, could I ask you to read them out?
Captain Noel Chavasse, VC and Bar, MC, mentioned in dispatches, 10th Battalion of the King's Liverpool Regiment, the Liverpool Scottish. On the 16th of September 1916, for most conspicuous bravery and devotion to duty, during an attack, he attended the wounded in the open all day, under heavy fire, frequently in view of the enemy. During the ensuing night, he searched for the wounded on the ground in front of the enemy's lines for 4 hours. Next day, he took one stretcher bearer to the advanced trenches and under heavy fire, carried an urgent case for 500 yards into safety, being wounded in the side by a shell splinter during the journey. The same night, he took up a party of 20 volunteers, rescued 3 wounded men from a shell hole 25 yards from the enemy's trench, buried the bodies of 2 officers and collected many identity tags, although fired on by bombs and machine guns. Altogether, he saved the lives of some 20 badly wounded men. Besides the ordinary cases which passed through his hands, his courage and self-sacrifice were beyond praise. On the 1st of August 1917, for most conspicuous bravery and devotion to duty, when in action, though severely wounded early in the action whilst carrying a wounded soldier to the dressing station, Captain Chavasse refused to leave his post. And for 2 days, not only continued to perform his duties, but in addition went out repeatedly under heavy fire to search for and attend to the wounded who were lying out. During these searches, although practically without food during this period, worn with fatigue and faint with his wound, he assisted to carry in a number of badly wounded men over heavy and difficult ground. By his extraordinary energy and inspiring example, he was instrumental in rescuing many wounded who would have otherwise undoubtedly succumbed under the bad weather conditions. This devoted and gallant officer subsequently died of his wounds.
So I think just listening to those, the inspiration that would really deliver. And so I'm just going to ask if I'll ask Johnson Bahari just to kindly say a few words.
Good morning, everyone. As a young soldier, we all would love to live up to Captain Chavasse' action, because he set the bar for us as soldiers. Well, I am a serving soldier. 24 years recruited and served with my regiment, Princesses of Wales Royal Regiment. In 2004, on my tour in Iraq, I saved 42 soldiers on 2 separate incidents. The last incident, I sustained serious injury. The first incident, I was shot in the head, defused 5 vertebrae in the lower back, and had a heat stroke. I saved 30 soldiers. On 11th of June 2004, I had a bullet in my head, a rocket propelled grenade detonated 6 inches from my face, and a bullet to my shoulder. I saved 12 soldiers. Unfortunately, the injury on 11th of June 2004 was so serious that I stayed in a coma for 5 weeks with less than 1% chance of survival. I just wanted to let you know a little bit of what happened to me before I say thank you to the NHS. Thank you to the Veteran Service. Although I'm still serving, I use the NHS a lot. And it's unfortunate, our help and the time we need help is mainly come at 2 in the morning, 12 o'clock at night. And I sit personally in the emergency and accident area, sitting area for hours, sometimes 8 hours, then having to tell the doctor my full story, which unfortunately, I'm lucky I could talk about, for he to tell me, I cannot help you. You need to see a specialist. I haven't been on the NHS in a while because I do have private treatment. So I cannot tell you the progress they have made since. But it's things like that I would like to see addressed. And when veterans go forward on the NHS, that they would be able to usher to a different direction where they don't have to sit and wait for all these hours. Because I could tell you, our veterans now is a much younger veterans, not like the Falklands and not like Northern Ireland. So personally for me, I want to thank you for your service and everyone who supports us as veterans. Thank you.
So I think in a nutshell, that's why we do what we do, isn't it, really? So the Chavasse report was really about enshrining the Armed Forces Covenant in the NHS, improving care and rehab, and the important for me was getting the learning from the DMS into the NHS. And what I wanted to do is establish a network of hospitals that would really provide the care we need for our veterans. It started off in MSK because I'm clearly an orthopedic surgeon, but it lends into all the other specialties as well. So why does that matter? And why is it important we do what we do? Well, I think Johnson has just said the reason why. We know what we want from our armed forces. Our armed forces walk into danger and they protect us, and that's the role of the government. And therefore, we owe them a duty of care to make sure we look after them while they're serving, but also when they're veterans. And what was really pleasurable for me was I went with Kate. We accompanied Amanda Pritchard, who's on the left there, who's the CEO of the NHS, and the new Surgeon General, Philip McNee, and they signed the Armed Forces Covenant at the Royal Hospital of Chelsea last week. And I think that's a culmination of where we are now within the NHS. And I think Kate would agree, it was a real pivotal moment. I mean, and that's fantastic. So if you look at healthcare responsibilities across the armed forces, I think it's a little bit complex in many ways on whether you're serving, you're a veteran, you're a reservist, and where you are and whether you're deployed. It depends on who looks after you. But the key is that in terms of our veterans, that falls on us, the NHS. And we know that they have needs. We know that they have challenges. And we know that what we've got to do is make sure that we provide the care that they deserve. And if you look at the health needs of veterans, they're very in line with the general population, except for MSK. They're much more likely to have back pain and injuries to their lower limbs in terms of orthopedics. And again, cardiovascular, respiratory, and mental health. And when we started this programme, and indeed working very closely with Kate over the last 8-9 years, it's all about building support across the health and defence. So we provide a service that's really all joined up. And the great thing about the veterans now is it's in the NHS long-term plan. That is currently undergoing a refresh at the moment, and that will be again very much part of it. And in no part, the VCHA and Veteran Aware has played a significant role in that and trying and working with Kate to bring that together. We know that there are commitments as well as the healthcare for armed forces community. I think that is a great report on how we look after our armed forces that are serving, how we help them into transition, and then how we help our veterans, not just in physical care, but also mental health, and not only them, but also their families. So where did this all come from? So Guy talked about getting it right the first time, which was a program I started and thought of in 2010 of patients that were just coming through into the Royal National Orthopaedic Hospital, Stanmore, where 80% of my referrals were second opinion or tertiary referrals on difficult cases or patients that perhaps should have been treated in a slightly different way. And we got money from government to improve orthopedics, and I visited every single trust and we produced really good outcomes, and that's why it is now across every single specialty in the NHS. At the same time, I was seeing veterans who were struggling at that time to access the health service. And when they came to see me, it was usually the end of a long journey where they'd found it very difficult to navigate. And so I got a group of my fellows together. We did a lot of research, and that's where the Chavasse report came from. And that's how we developed into the Veteran Aware, getting all trusts, because I wanted this network of hospitals. Lord Dannett, Richard Dannett, has been a great supporter of me personally over many years and of the VCHA, and he's our patron. And that's, we had a meeting, I forgot where that was now, but I was clearly looking a lot younger then, and that's very kind of you to put that in, Guy, I have to say. So what's our purpose? I think in blue there, the aim is to develop, share and drive the implementation of best practice that will improve armed forces veterans care, whilst at the same time also raising standards across the NHS for all users. Because remember, veterans are part of the population that use the NHS, and what I wanted to see, and I said that if we could improve veterans care, then all care in the NHS will actually also improve. And so what we did is we produced a manifesto, we produced a set of standards, and we did that back in 2015 and 16 on what we wanted this network of hospitals to do to enhance care for veterans. And what we had was 8 standards. The plan was to accredit them. Did they meet the minimum requirement set? Then carry out a year review, which is informal, and then a 3-year accreditation, but making sure that we do continuous improvement during that time. So we've been on a journey from 2015, and you'll see that we started off in 2017 with 25 hospitals. 2019 we had 31, and you'll see that in 2021 we had a significant uptick in terms of the rate of which we were able to accredit and help trust do that. And that was because of the the working together with Kate and the Armed Forces Directorate, the financing of the team. You can see here from 2021 to now how the team has grown, allowing us to do very much more, and also then move and widen scope, which we'll talk about in just a minute. So I'm very proud to be working with Kate. I'm very proud of the team. I thank Guy very much for his leadership. But underneath that, that is the team that is driving this programme. And it's great credit to them that we are where we are today, where we've got 203 out of 208 acute trusts all signed up, and we'll have the rest done by the autumn. And I think that is great credit to the work they've done. So thank you very much indeed from me for that. The action plan was, the idea was to get everybody signed up by 2023, but we had a slight problem with COVID in the meantime. And I think that knocked us off course, but now we are clearly where we want to be. And there we have, we're now 98% of all acute trust, which is a phenomenal achievement, I have to say. And then if you look at the metrics, like the Veterans Aware, Armed Forces Covenant and employer recognition, look at the step change I've highlighted there from 2021 onwards. And then if you look at the activity in numbers about network membership, event attendees, Armed Forces champs, etc., you can see that we've now crossed that tipping point, and this is why we are now rolling the hill, the boulder down the hill, and it's really, really exciting. What we've also done is move into the independent sector, hospices and third sector, and you'll see at the bottom we started with care homes. I didn't quite realise when I started how many care homes there are in the country. Let me tell you, there are a huge number. So we started with 5, but then what we did, we've worked in partnership with the Royal Star and Garter, and that has made a really big difference. So we've now got 61 care homes, working with another 81. We're working with the big care home groups as well. And that, again, I think is very exciting. And what is amazing to me is that when I review the care home applications, I'm continuously amazed at what they're doing already for veterans. It really is quite humbling to see how much and how seriously they take this and what they're doing. So I think that is going to bloom and be a really good partnership. We're going to hear about the rehabilitation project. We've been on a journey, and Linus will talk about that later on. But what we've got to do is make sure rehabilitation is part of this. Again, why do I say that? Because if we can get it right for veterans, we'll get it right for NHS patients. And for me, rehabilitation is something that at the moment we don't do as well as we should in the NHS. And we've got to make a difference. And that is what the project will do. And it's already starting to bear fruit. And I'm looking forward to seeing the outcome. Clearly, though, like everything I do, clinically led, using data is critical. It's no good just asking somebody to sign up to something and then walk off the pitch, because my experience is then people sort of sometimes row backwards. So what we need to do is to make sure we've evaluated what we're doing, what we've done. How do we do that? Well, we've done a survey, we've got trusts, we're looking at individuals, some levers, some individuals who are important, like Nikki Murdoch, could give them their view, case studies, and also, again, conference activities. That is how we will evaluate what we are doing and how far we've got. But the critical thing is data. So the team under Bernadette are working through data. We've successfully piloted with NHS Trust, about 9 to date. And what we're trying to link it in is to a program called the Outcome Registry Program, which I co-chair with Ming Tang in the NHS. And what I want to be able to do is produce data that is meaningful and demonstrates that we all moving the dial, that every trust that signed up is doing its our bit, and we can demonstrate what we're doing for veterans and how important this is. So I'm just going to leave you, if I may, with three or four of these. Just read that from a trust in London about what they think of what we've achieved so far. And when you get that sort of feedback, you think, you know what, we're on the right road. Again, look at this simple thing a veteran needed, but because of where we are now, just able to help with that, which was, I think, critically important. And I've got another one, again, about a gentleman who lost his Royal Navy cap, devastated, and he was in a hospice. Simple things mean so much to many, many people. And this is what these simple things do and make such a difference. And I was always told growing up by my father that all the small things actually cascade into a big thing. And if you get these things right, then you'll get the macro thing right. And I think finally, again, from a individual, which I think says it all really. So what's the benefits and the impact? Well, I think you can look at 4 levels really. Across ICBs, in which there are 42, and I work very closely, we need better understanding in armed forces, and we can make sure that is articulated. Again, working with Kate. Benefits to individuals, I think, is critical. We need to know that actually what we're doing is making a difference. Benefits to the provider and benefits to the employer, all coming out of what we're doing currently. So in summary, we've tried to extol exemplar best practice with standards. We've got 98% of trusts. We're now widening scope, as you've seen, hospices, the independent sector, care homes, etc. We'll have all trusts accredited, and now it's about quality improvement and data to demonstrate our value so that we can drive this forward.